Hey there guys, back with a new video. Thank you again for joining me. In this one I will be talking about how I got into photography, how I learned it, and where my career is at right now. Right, so my story of how I got into photography isn't really magical or inspiring. I think it happened in a pretty common way. One day, me and my high school buddies graduated high school, and as is sort of tradition here in the Netherlands after graduating, well, the teenagers often go on a post-graduation trip. So we planned to go to Greece on a sunny holiday. And around that time I already had a mild interest in photography. That mainly came to be because one day I was browsing the internet, I stumbled across these pictures of the Milky Way, and in the comments section people were actually explaining how to take such photographs. So I was reading that and I thought like, oh hey, this doesn't seem too difficult. And I just really love stars, space and the Milky Way. And I was like, man, I want those pictures for myself. And so with that in mind, I started to do research, which cameras to get, which not to get, starting to read a few things about photography. And the more I was looking into it, the more I started to realize that photography is really a skill for life. It's usable in so many situations. Like literally anywhere and at any time. Whether you're at like a family party or a birthday party, you have to do work for school, document your process, or when you go on a holiday just for fun. So with those three things in mind, I bought my first camera, which was a Nikon D3200. So how did I actually learn photography? Well, as some of you might know, I did not go to school for photography. I studied something different, I'll talk about that in a bit. But most of the things I learned, like over 90% or around 90%, came through YouTube. I did buy some photography books, but that didn't really work for me. I do like to just go through the books, flip the pages, look at the images, look at the compositions and use them as inspiration. But I think I learn better through watching videos or to hear other people talk about photography. Of course, just watching YouTube videos isn't enough. You might think or feel that you're making progress and that you know it, but I think it's far more important to actually put that theory to use, put it to practice out in the field. Luckily, that wasn't really a problem for me. So once I had my camera, I was like watching all the YouTube videos possible. This was around maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I still watch videos, but nowadays when I watch videos I feel like I already know the stuff that they are talking about. They're just putting it in a different jacket and there's someone else talking about it. But anyway, so yeah, I've put a lot of hours into photography, even more than I did into my studies. I was studying industrial product design at the time that I bought my first camera. And I was like constantly out there in the field by myself. And I say by myself because I do think that that's quite an important thing. Because you have people who are like occasional shooters or something. Like they only take out their camera when they are going on a holiday or on a trip to a tropical location where it's more easy to do photography because every scene that you see inspires you and looks pretty and you just want to capture it. Or people who only shoot when they can photograph with other people because I guess they don't have the motivation coming from inside of them. And I do think that if you want to become something of a successful or good photographer, you gotta be shooting consistently, and that also means like shooting by yourself. Because I don't think that you can shoot all the time with someone together. And so it's important that the motivation and the desire to learn photography, to do photography, comes from inside, comes from yourself, and that you do it for yourself. Because if you do it for someone else, I don't think that you'll make it far. Okay, but anyway, so I watched a lot of YouTube videos. Seriously, a lot. But I think I spent an equal amount of time outside shooting. Whether it's like sunrise, waking up at 5 AM, taking my bicycle, cycling around town or to the woods, during the day, or even in the night by myself in the woods outside doing astrophotography. In the beginning I started out with like doing nature, landscape, those kind of things where other people weren't involved, where I was doing it just for myself. And at some point I reconnected with a friend. She was like, hey, do you do portraits? I'm like, no. She's like, wanna try? I'm like, okay. And so that's how I got in contact with portrait photography. And I actually really enjoy that because it's something completely different. Because you have to work together with someone, they can give you feedback on your images, they tell you what they like and what they don't like. You learn to sort of direct people, tell them how to pose or how to feel or how to act. And it's like a completely different thing. And that's also an important thing. I dipped my toes into all kinds of aspects of photography, like macro, astro, portraiture. I tried sports, not really my thing. I tried shooting in a nightclub once, that's definitely not my thing. And yeah, just like that, I've done a lot of things. The stuff that I photograph regularly right now, that's I think still like nature and landscapes, portrait photography, and travel photography. But travel photography could be a combination of those two things. But yeah, so I basically learned photography just by watching YouTube, by having like a seriously honest interest coming from inside and putting all that knowledge, all that absorbed information to actual use outside in the field. In the beginning, I felt like I was growing like this very fast, and at some point you hit a plateau. At some point YouTube just isn't enough. At some point you've gotta either teach yourself just through doing and experimenting and gaining more experience, or I guess you could follow workshops or master classes, learn from others, or like try other aspects of photography, because you can learn a lot of things by doing different type of shoots. Yeah, I think learning photography is about having a healthy balance between like learning the theory, hearing how to do it, seeing how to do it, and actually putting that to use. If I would have to give a few tips to someone who's just starting out with photography, or just tips in general for learning photography, I would say learn to analyze photographs. Look at photographs that you like and ask yourself, why do you like it? What's good about it? And put it like to real words. Don't just say, this is nice, cool sunset, nice colors. But like, be more specific. What do you like about the composition? Is it in balance? How is the mood? What does it make you feel? Is the exposure maybe underexposed, overexposed? Why is it underexposed? Because underexposing like changes the mood. It makes it a bit more dark, more gritty. And these are all creative choices. And the better you know why a photograph is good, that way you like know the ingredients for a good photograph. And then you can recognize those ingredients in a scene, and then you can actually start recreating them just like a meal. Once you know how to cook potatoes and make, I don't know, mac and cheese, you can always do that, and it's more or less the same with photography, I suppose. So one tip would be to analyze the photographs. My second tip would be to not worry too much about the technical things. I would suggest to just grab a camera, get comfortable with it, go out and shoot, and pay maybe more attention to compositions. Because I think even if your technical settings are perfect and your composition sucks, well, then your photograph still is bad. I mean, it won't be pleasing to look at, no one will want to look at. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that composition is very important. Of course, light plays a huge role in photography, but light is, I think, quite a difficult subject to understand. I only, like 1.5 years ago, when I started doing studio photography more, playing with flash, turning it around, seeing how it changes like the shape of my own face and how shadow and light is at play, only then I started to get a feeling for light and how important it is. Yeah, it's a difficult subject. Of course, it's very important to pay attention to it, but I think that might come with time and I wouldn't worry too much about it. So my second tip would be just get your camera, go out there, start shooting, and just pay attention to your composition. How do you frame things? Where do you put your subject? Where's the horizon? Are you high? Are you low? Is there like depth in your scene? Things like that. And also, like if you put your camera in auto mode, 8 out of 10 times most likely your exposure will be pretty okay. And so yeah, the composition is then more important because the camera can't decide on the composition for you. You have to do that. And yeah, the exposure, yeah, you have a good chance that your camera will get that right. So where am I at right now in my career with photography? Well, as I said before, I did not go to school for photography. I actually studied industrial product design. While studying, photography still felt like a real hobby. I did discover that it's seriously my passion, and that I want to make my career, build my career around photography, earn my money as a photographer. So while studying, it still felt like a hobby. But now that I've actually graduated, this only happened recently, I graduated as an industrial product designer, I feel a certain pressure, because having that diploma means that I can get a normal job with a normal and steady income. And working as a freelance photographer is anything but normal, I think. The taking pictures part, that's quite normal, but like figuring everything around it out, like the monetization part, the administration, the taxes, getting clients, doing the marketing, all of that is pretty new to me, quite like a little bit overwhelming, I suppose. There's a lot of figuring out. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm at the very beginning of my freelance photography career. Only like the past 2 months, I've become like very serious about it. Like trying to get new clients, reaching out to people, trying to collaborate with other people. And I guess making these YouTube videos, trying to share my knowledge and keeping a blog on my website. It's also just fun to do. And well, as I said, I'm like at the beginning of my career. At the moment I'm not working like full-time as a freelance photographer, so I have quite some time on my hands to spend on whatever. And one of those things is these YouTube videos, which I quite enjoy. So yeah, that's more or less the story of how I started photography and where I'm at right now. Hope you maybe enjoyed this video, maybe got something out of it. And yeah, hope to see you next time. Bye bye.